Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into the life and unparalleled career of an actor who has not just graced the silver screen, but fundamentally reshaped it. We're talking about a man whose name is synonymous with intense realism, profound character studies, and a dedication to his craft that borders on the legendary. You know him, you've seen him, and you've probably quoted him, Robert De Niro. From his early days as a quiet kid nicknamed Bobby Milk in the eclectic streets of Manhattan to becoming a global cinematic icon and a shrewd businessman, De Niro's story is a masterclass in artistic evolution and relentless pursuit of authenticity. We're going to unpack his journey, explore his method, and understand how he became and remains one of the greatest actors of all time. So settle in, because we're about to talk to you about the one and only Robert De Niro. Let's rewind to the very beginning, to August 17th, 1943. Robert Anthony De Niro Jr. was born in a small Manhattan hospital to parents deeply entrenched in the bohemian art scene of mid-century New York. His father, Robert De Niro Sr., was an accomplished painter, sculptor, and poet, a man whose artistic journey fused abstract and expressionist styles with traditional subjects. He was a significant figure in the New York avant-garde, studying under the renowned Hans Hofmann and rubbing shoulders with abstract expressionist luminaries. His mother, Virginia Admiral, was also a formidable artist, a painter and a writer. They met while studying at Hoffman School in Provincetown, Massachusetts, a truly artistic genesis for a man who would dedicate his life to art. It's fascinating to trace De Niro's ancestry. His paternal great-grandparents, Giovanni De Niro and Angelina Mercurio, emigrated from Ferrazzano in the Molise region of Italy in the late 19th century. A simple clerical error at the immigration station changed De Niro to Deniro, a name that would become globally recognized. And there's an Irish thread, too, through his paternal grandmother, Helen O'Reilly. This blend of Italian and Irish heritage, combined with his upbringing in the melting pot of New York, would prove to be incredibly formative. A significant event in De Niro's early life was his parents' divorce when he was just 2 years old. It was a difficult decision for them, but both remained figures in his life, even though he was primarily raised by his mother. Their living situation was quite nomadic within the New York art world, moving frequently between apartments in Greenwich Village and Little Italy. Imagine that for a child, growing up in two distinct vibrant ecosystems simultaneously. Greenwich Village was a hub of beatnik culture, radical politics, and bohemian art, a world of free expression and intellectual ferment. Little Italy, on the other hand, was a tight-knit insular community defined by its Italian-American heritage, steeped in tradition and family. This juxtaposition, this constant shifting between worlds, offered young Bobby an unparalleled education in human behavior, cultural nuances, and socioeconomic diversity. It was a rough-and-tumble school of life, but one that would profoundly influence his ability to portray characters from incredibly diverse backgrounds later in his career. It's almost hard to picture the iconic, intense De Niro as a quiet, thin boy with a pale complexion, but that's precisely how he was described. The neighborhood kids even gave him the nickname Bobby Milk. But beneath that quiet exterior was an incredibly observant mind, a burgeoning imagination that was just waiting for an outlet. And that outlet came remarkably early. At the tender age of 10, he made his artistic debut as the Cowardly Lion in a local school production of The Amazing Wizard of Oz. This wasn't just a school play, it was a transformative moment. For young De Niro, it was the realization that through performance, he could channel his introverted energy, his quiet observation, into something captivating, something that could command attention. It was a revelation, a discovery of his true calling. His formal education saw him through public schools like PS 41, and then the prestigious High School of Music and Art in Manhattan, an institution renowned for nurturing young creative talents. It was there that he even crossed paths with another future legend, Al Pacino, though they weren't close friends at the time. But the traditional classroom structure, with its regimented schedules and academic focus, held little appeal for the budding performer. He was restless, eager to dedicate his life entirely to the craft of acting, and so at the age of 16, he made the life-altering decision to quit high school. This wasn't an act of giving up on learning, quite the opposite. It was an act of liberation, a redirection of his learning towards the institutions that would sculpt his legendary acting technique. He sought out formal training at two of the most influential acting schools in New York, the Stella Adler Conservatory of Acting, and later, Lee Strasberg's Actors Studio. These were the crucibles of method acting, and both pedagogues instilled in De Niro the foundational principles of this immersive approach. Strasberg emphasized emotional depth, drawing on personal experiences to fuel a performance. Adler, on the other hand, focused more on script analysis, imagination, and character-building techniques. De Niro, ever the astute student, didn't just pick one. He synthesized these teachings, developing his own unique style that blended the emotional rawness of Strasberg with the intellectual rigor of Adler. This unique blend would become the hallmark of the De Niro method. During his late teens and early 20s, these were truly formative years. De Niro immersed himself entirely in the arts. He frequented theaters, absorbed the vibrant culture of Manhattan, and took on various odd jobs to support himself while auditioning for off-Broadway productions. The streets of New York, the bohemian pulse of Greenwich Village, and the relentless, rigorous training from the city's top acting coaches, all of these elements converged to mold a young man who was uniquely prepared to inhabit the complex, conflicted characters that would soon define his career. He wasn't just learning lines, he was learning life, observing, absorbing, and preparing to pour it all into his art. Now, before the mainstream accolades and those multi-million-dollar film contracts, Robert De Niro was a dedicated, hungry young actor navigating the competitive world of New York theater and independent cinema. The 1960s were a period of intense honing of his craft, marked by off-Broadway stage work and low-budget film appearances that painstakingly laid the groundwork for a spectacular career. His initial foray into the film industry began with small, often uncredited roles and appearances in independent features. His very first credited film appearance was in The Wedding Party, an independent comedy directed by Brian De Palma. Interestingly, it was filmed in 1963, but faced distribution issues and wasn't formally released until 1969. This early project was more significant than just being his first credited role. It marked the beginning of a long-standing creative association with De Palma, who would go on to direct several other notable films during De Niro's nascent years. Think of it as a crucial stepping stone, a professional handshake that would open doors. Following The Wedding Party, De Niro continued to collaborate with De Palma on a pair of satirical countercultural films, Greetings in 1968 and Hi Mom in 1970. In Greetings, De Niro played John Rubin, an aspiring filmmaker and voyeur who becomes deeply entangled in various anti-establishment conspiracies. This role offered an early glimpse into De Niro's willingness to take on unconventional, somewhat erratic characters, a trait that would become a signature. In Hi Mom, he reprised a similar role, further establishing himself as an actor capable of capturing the underlying tension and absurdity of the late 1960s American cultural landscape. These were not blockbuster roles, but they were vital for an actor building his repertoire, exploring the nuances of human behavior in a rapidly changing world. While film was providing a new frontier, De Niro's heart and early professional life were deeply rooted in the theater. He paid his dues in off-Broadway productions, where he developed a reputation for his total immersion into the characters he portrayed. His training at the Stella Adler Conservatory and the Actors Studio wasn't just theoretical, it was practical, applied nightly on stage. He learned to analyze the psychological motivations of a character deeply, to understand not just what they did, but why. He wasn't just reciting lines, he was physically and emotionally inhabiting the persona, a trait that would soon make him a standout among his contemporaries. This dedication to inhabiting a character rather than merely playing one was truly setting him apart. The early 1970s brought a pivotal turning point in De Niro's career. He was cast in the sports drama Bang the Drum Slowly in 1973, directed by John Hancock. De Niro played Bruce Pearson, a terminally ill catcher for a Major League Baseball team. His preparation for this role was a testament to his burgeoning method acting approach. He spent weeks studying the sport, learning how to catch and play like a professional baseball player, not just mimicking, but truly understanding the physicality. His portrayal of the doomed, gentle, and somewhat naive athlete was met with widespread critical acclaim. For this performance, De Niro won the New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Supporting Actor. This recognition was a massive breakthrough, proving to the film industry that De Niro possessed not only the dedication to undergo intense physical transformations, but also the emotional range to elicit genuine empathy from the audience. It showed his versatility, his ability to connect deeply with a character's vulnerability. And it was during this exact same period, a truly serendipitous moment, that De Niro crossed paths with a young, visionary director named Martin Scorsese. The meeting of these two Italian-Americans from New York City, both with a deep understanding of the city's gritty underbelly, would alter the course of cinematic history. Scorsese cast De Niro in Mean Streets in 1973, a raw, unflinching crime drama set in Little Italy, the very neighborhood where De Niro had spent much of his youth. This was a homecoming in a way, allowing him to tap into his own lived experiences. In Mean Streets, De Niro took on the role of Johnny Boy Savello, an impulsive, self-destructive, and reckless small-time mobster. The performance was a revelation. De Niro brought a frantic, unpredictable energy to the character, balancing Johnny Boy's dangerous tendencies with a deeply human vulnerability. He wasn't just a caricature, he was a complex, flawed individual. His work in Mean Streets established what would become the quintessential De Niro style, a blend of volatile intensity, hyper-realistic mannerisms, and absolute authenticity. The film also marked the beginning of one of the most celebrated director-actor partnerships in the history of filmmaking, setting the stage for a string of masterpieces that would define the 1970s, 1980s, and beyond. It was a creative alchemy that rarely occurs, a perfect storm of talent. By the end of 1973, Robert De Niro had transitioned from an obscure, off-Broadway actor and independent film player to one of the most promising talents in Hollywood. His work in Bang the Drum Slowly showcased his ability to play a sympathetic everyman, a quiet, vulnerable soul. Mean Streets, on the other hand, demonstrated his capacity for dangerous, electrifying performances, a raw, untamed force. This dual ability to inhabit entirely disparate types of characters, to seamlessly shift between them, laid the foundation for a career defined by astonishing versatility. Armed with a deep understanding of method acting, a fierce work ethic, and a natural instinct for the nuances of human behavior, De Niro was poised for the iconic roles that would make him a global cinematic legend. The groundwork was laid, the fuse was lit, and the 1970s were about to explode. The 1970s are universally recognized as one of the most explosive and creatively brilliant decades in the history of American cinema. It was a time when filmmakers pushed boundaries, explored darker themes, and actors delivered performances that felt raw and authentic. And Robert De Niro, without a doubt, was its defining actor. During this period, he delivered a succession of iconic performances that transformed him from a promising young talent into an undisputed cinematic legend. Building on the momentum of Mean Streets and Bang the Drum Slowly, De Niro was cast in Francis Ford Coppola's highly anticipated crime epic, The Godfather Part II, in 1974. He was tasked with playing the young Vito Corleone, a role immortalized by Marlon Brando in the first film. This was an immense challenge, to step into the shoes of a character already made legendary by another acting giant. But rather than simply imitating Brando's performance, De Niro took a meticulous, immersive approach. He spent months studying Sicilian dialects, perfecting a soft-spoken but commanding voice, and adopting specific physical mannerisms that hinted at the calculating mind of a future mafia boss. He didn't just play a young version of Brando's Vito. He created a fully realized independent character, showing the origins of the man we knew. His portrayal of the young immigrant who rises to power in New York's underworld was both chilling and deeply poignant. The performance earned De Niro his first Academy Award, taking home the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. It was a clear signal to Hollywood. This actor was not just good. If The Godfather Part 2 cemented his status as a dramatic powerhouse, his next collaboration with Martin Scorsese launched him into the stratosphere of cultural icon. In 1976, De Niro starred in Taxi Driver, a psychological thriller written by Paul Schrader. He played Travis Bickle, a lonely, alienated, and increasingly unhinged Vietnam War veteran working as a nighttime taxi driver in New York City. This role, this character, became an emblem of urban alienation and simmering rage. De Niro's preparation for Travis Bickle was legendary, a testament to his extreme dedication. He obtained a hack license and actually drove a cab through the streets of New York for weeks, observing the city's underbelly and the quiet desperation of its inhabitants. He didn't just research, he lived the role. The resulting performance is one of the most studied and iconic in film history. De Niro captured Bickle's descent into madness with terrifying precision, famously ad-libbing the chilling "You talking to me?" mirror sequence. That moment, born of improvisation and deep character immersion, became one of the most quoted lines in cinema. Taxi Driver won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival and earned De Niro his first Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. It also firmly established De Niro and Scorsese as a duo unafraid of exploring the darkest, most uncomfortable corners of the human psyche, pushing the boundaries of what mainstream cinema could address. The following year, De Niro continued to showcase his range, starring in Bernardo Bertolucci's historical epic 1900 in 1976, playing the wealthy landowner Alfredo Berlingueri. This film allowed him to demonstrate his versatility on a grand, international scale, contrasting sharply with the gritty realism of his New York-based projects. In 1977, he re-teamed with Scorsese for the musical drama New York, New York, portraying the brilliant but volatile jazz saxophonist Jimmy Doyle. While the film was not as commercially successful as their previous ventures, it featured another intense, committed performance from De Niro, who, true to his method, learned to play the saxophone to lend authenticity to his role. This wasn't about faking it, it was about being it. De Niro's penchant for physically and emotionally demanding roles continued in 1978 with Michael Cimino's The Deer Hunter. The film explored the devastating impact of the Vietnam War on a close-knit group of Russian-American steelworkers from Pennsylvania. De Niro starred as Michael Vronsky, a stoic and courageous soldier who survives the horrors of a Viet Cong POW camp. The role required immense physical and psychological endurance, including grueling scenes filmed in the jungles of Thailand. De Niro's portrayal of the hardened veteran dealing with the psychological trauma of war was highly praised, and he received his second Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. It was a performance that spoke to the deep scars left by conflict, both visible and invisible. As the decade drew to a close, De Niro's reputation as an actor who completely surrendered himself to his art was firmly established. His work from 1974 to 1978 represents an unparalleled run of critically acclaimed, culturally significant performances. He avoided typecasting, moving seamlessly from a quiet Sicilian mobster to a deranged urban vigilante, and from a conflicted jazz musician to a haunted Vietnam veteran. His ability to disappear into a role, altering his physique, speech patterns, and even his psychological state, set a new standard for acting in American cinema. This relentless pursuit of authenticity and perfectionism during the 1970s cemented Robert De Niro as not just a star, but one of the greatest actors of his generation. He wasn't simply performing, he was transforming. If the 1970s established Robert De Niro as a formidable talent, the 1980s saw him reach the absolute pinnacle of his craft. It was a decade defined by his continued, groundbreaking collaborations with Martin Scorsese and his willingness to take on increasingly complex, psychologically demanding characters. He wasn't content to rest on his laurels. He continually pushed the boundaries of his art. The decade began with what is widely considered one of the greatest performances in film history, Raging Bull, in 1980. Directed by Martin Scorsese, this biographical black-and-white drama chronicled the tumultuous life and career of middleweight boxing champion Jake LaMotta. The role demanded everything from De Niro, and he gave it all. To prepare, he trained relentlessly with LaMotta himself, learning to box until he was a formidable athlete in the ring. This wasn't just about looking the part. It was about feeling the part, understanding the brutal discipline and physical toll of a boxer's life. The physical training allowed him to accurately portray the boxer's explosive and violent prowess in his prime. However, the film's most famous demand came later. To accurately represent LaMotta's later years, when the retired champion had ballooned in weight, De Niro went on an eating binge in Europe, gaining approximately 60 pounds. This extreme method preparation was unprecedented at the time and demonstrated a level of dedication to authenticity that shocked Hollywood. It was a physical transformation that went beyond mere makeup. It was a commitment to embodying the character's entire journey, including his physical decline. Beyond the physical, De Niro captured the deep-seated insecurities, paranoia, and self-destructive rage of LaMotta with terrifying brilliance. His performance won him the Academy Award for Best Actor, cementing his status as the premier actor of his generation. Raging Bull wasn't just a film. It was an acting masterclass, a benchmark against which all future intense performances would be measured. Following the immense success of Raging Bull, De Niro took on a variety of challenging projects, demonstrating his desire to avoid typecasting. In 1981, he starred in True Confessions, a dark drama about two brothers, one a police detective, the other a priest, investigating a gruesome murder in 1940s Los Angeles. De Niro played the priest, Monsignor Despelisi, portraying a man of the cloth navigating the murky intersection of faith, politics, and corruption. This film showcased De Niro's ability to play quiet, internalized characters, a stark contrast to his loud, explosive work as LaMotta. It was a subtle, nuanced performance that highlighted his range. In 1983, De Niro re-teamed with Martin Scorsese for a third time in the decade for The King of Comedy. He starred as Rupert Pupkin, a delusional and obsessive aspiring stand-up comedian who kidnaps a famous talk show host in a desperate bid for fame. De Niro's portrayal of the socially awkward, utterly misguided Pupkin was a masterclass in cringe-inducing comedy and psychological drama. It was uncomfortable, unsettling, and incredibly insightful into the darker side of fame obsession. While The King of Comedy was not a massive box office success upon its initial release, it has since been re-evaluated as a masterpiece of black comedy and one of De Niro's finest performances, proving his willingness to take risks and explore unconventional roles. The mid-1980s saw De Niro expanding his repertoire with even more ambitious projects. In 1984, he starred in Sergio Leone's sprawling crime epic Once Upon a Time in America. The film followed the lives of Jewish mobsters in New York City over several decades. De Niro played the enigmatic protagonist, David Noodles Aronson. His performance spanned from his youth to his old age, requiring De Niro to convey the heavy burden of regret and nostalgia, a lifetime of choices etched onto his face. In 1985, he took a surreal turn, starring in Terry Gilliam's dystopian science fiction classic Brazil, portraying the heroic but ultimately doomed heating engineer Harry Tuttle. These roles demonstrated his ability to inhabit vastly different worlds and genres, always bringing that signature intensity and authenticity. De Niro's versatility continued into the latter half of the 1980s. In 1986, he starred in Roland Joffe's The Mission, playing the repentant slave trader and Jesuit priest Rodrigo Mendoza. The role required him to undergo rigorous physical training to scale waterfalls in the South American jungle while dragging heavy armor, a scene that stands as a powerful visual metaphor for Mendoza's spiritual burden and quest for redemption. It was another instance of physical commitment mirroring the character's internal struggle. In 1987, De Niro delivered a memorable, larger-than-life portrayal of the infamous mob boss Al Capone in Brian De Palma's The Untouchables. He gained weight and wore custom period suits to physically embody the ruthless Chicago kingpin, delivering an iconic, scenery-chewing performance that was both terrifying and charismatic. This was a character you loved to hate, brought to life with De Niro's unique flair. The 1980s concluded for De Niro with the release of the action comedy Midnight Run in 1988. He starred as Jack Walsh, a cynical bounty hunter tasked with escorting an eccentric embezzler, played by Charles Grodin, across the United States. The film allowed De Niro to display his comedic timing and a surprisingly warm, charismatic screen presence, earning him widespread praise and another Golden Globe nomination. It was a delightful surprise for audiences accustomed to his intense dramatic roles, proving he could also make them laugh and genuinely enjoy a lighter side of his talent. By the end of the 1980s, Robert De Niro had established himself as an actor of unparalleled range and dedication. He proved that he could masterfully navigate historical epics, dystopian futures, gritty dramas, and light-hearted comedies. His work in the 1980s, particularly his monumental effort in Raging Bull, solidified his legendary status and set an incredibly high standard for what could be achieved through method acting. As he entered the next decade, De Niro was already a cinematic icon, yet he continued to seek out challenging roles that would redefine his career once again. He wasn't just performing, he was constantly evolving, pushing the boundaries of his own capabilities. Having conquered the 1970s and 1980s with legendary dramatic performances, Robert De Niro entered the 1990s as an established master of cinema. During this era, he not only continued to deliver powerful, gritty roles, but also began to expand his professional horizons by taking on producing and directing, while also exploring his comedic talents. It was a period of diversification, showing the multifaceted nature of his ambition. The 1990s kicked off with a return to the mob genre, a space in which De Niro was unparalleled. In 1990, he starred as James "Jimmy" Conway in Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas. Based on the true story of mobster Henry Hill, the film is widely considered one of the greatest crime dramas ever made. De Niro's portrayal of the cool, calculating, and ruthlessly violent Conway was a masterclass in controlled intensity. He didn't need to yell or make grand gestures. His menace was in his eyes, his quiet demeanor. The performance perfectly complemented the manic energy of Joe Pesci and the narration of Ray Liotta, anchoring the film in a chilling realism. It was another iconic collaboration, a perfect storm of talent, creating cinematic history. Also in 1990, De Niro starred alongside Robin Williams in Awakenings, a touching medical drama based on the true story of a doctor who discovers a medication that temporarily revives catatonic patients. De Niro's portrayal of Leonard Lowe, a patient who awakens after decades, was deeply moving. He meticulously studied the physical tics and emotional tremors of the disease, embodying the struggle and wonder of reawakening. This role earned widespread acclaim and another Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, once again highlighting his profound ability to evoke empathy and portray deep human vulnerability. De Niro re-teamed with Martin Scorsese for a seventh time in 1991 for Cape Fear, a psychological thriller. He played Max Cady, a convicted rapist with a heavily tattooed body and a vengeance-fueled obsession with the lawyer who he feels failed him in court. To embody Cady, De Niro worked out intensely to achieve a heavily muscled physique, got dental work to appear menacing, and portrayed the character with a disturbing, predatory charisma. He didn't just play a villain, he became a force of nature, a terrifying embodiment of revenge. The role earned De Niro yet another Academy Award nomination, proving his ability to transform into truly frightening characters. In 1993, De Niro made his featured directorial debut with A Bronx Tale, a coming-of-age drama based on a play by Chaz Palminteri. Set in the 1960s in the Bronx, the film explores the struggles of a young boy torn between his hard-working, honest father and a charismatic local mob boss, Sonny. De Niro directed the film and also took on the role of the father, demonstrating a deep understanding of the New York Italian-American culture he had explored throughout his career. He wasn't just an actor, he was a storyteller, bringing his unique perspective to the director's chair. The film was well received, proving De Niro's capabilities behind the camera. The mid-1990s featured another milestone in De Niro's career, a long-awaited on-screen pairing with his contemporary and friend, Al Pacino. The two acting giants shared a few scenes in Michael Mann's 1995 crime epic, Heat. De Niro played Neil McCauley, a highly intelligent and disciplined professional thief, while Pacino played Vincent Hanna, the relentless detective hunting him. The diner scene between De Niro and Pacino is legendary in cinema, representing a collision of two distinct acting titans. It was a moment film buffs had dreamed of, finally seeing these two powerhouses share the screen in a meaningful dialogue. Later that year, De Niro reunited with Martin Scorsese and Joe Pesci for the epic Casino, playing the gambling boss Sam Ace Rothstein in a lavish but doomed endeavor in Las Vegas. Another deep dive into the world of organized crime, but with a different flavor, a more opulent, yet equally tragic setting. As the 1990s came to a close, De Niro made a surprising but highly successful career pivot. He began to embrace comedy. In 1999, he starred alongside Billy Crystal in the mob comedy Analyze This. De Niro played Paul Vitti, a powerful, neurotic mob boss who begins experiencing panic attacks and seeks help from a psychiatrist. The film was a massive commercial hit, and De Niro's ability to spoof his own tough guy mobster persona earned him rave reviews and a Golden Globe nomination. It showed a self-awareness and a willingness to poke fun at his own image, delighting audiences. This comedic exploration continued into the 2000s with the smash hit Meet the Parents in 2000. De Niro starred as Jack Burns, a retired CIA operative who is intensely protective of his daughter and highly suspicious of her well-meaning boyfriend, played by Ben Stiller. The film spawned a highly successful franchise, Meet the Fockers in 2004 and Little Fockers in 2010, and introduced De Niro to a completely new, younger generation of fans. He became known not just for his intense dramas, but for his deadpan comedic timing. Alongside his successful comedies, De Niro began to take on a more prominent role behind the scenes. In 1989, he co-founded Tribeca Productions with producer Jane Rosenthal. The production company was established in the Tribeca neighborhood of Lower Manhattan, an area that De Niro has been instrumental in revitalizing. Following the September 11th attacks, De Niro and Rosenthal co-founded the Tribeca Film Festival in 2002. The festival was created to revitalize the cultural and economic vitality of Lower Manhattan, and it has since grown into one of the most prominent and prestigious film festivals in the world. This wasn't just about making movies. It was about community, about rebuilding, about using art as a force for good. The 1990s and 2000s represented a period of immense evolution for Robert De Niro. He proved that he could balance critically acclaimed dramatic work with massive commercial comedies. His transition into directing and producing, as well as his philanthropic and community-building efforts in New York City, showcased a depth to his character that extended far beyond his on-screen personas. By the turn of the millennium, he was no longer just an actor. He was an industry institution and a cultural icon, a true Renaissance man of cinema. As Robert De Niro moved deeper into the 21st century, he solidified his status as an elder statesman of cinema. Never one to rest on his laurels or step away from the industry he helped shape, De Niro has maintained a grueling, multifaceted career, balancing independent dramas, major studio releases, and his various business and philanthropic endeavors. His energy and commitment have remained unwavering. The 2010s saw De Niro continuing to work with top-tier directors and exploring new thematic territories. In 2012, he starred in David O. Russell's romantic comedy drama Silver Linings Playbook. De Niro played Pat Solitano Sr., the obsessive, Philadelphia Eagles-loving and somewhat superstitious father of the protagonist, played by Bradley Cooper. The performance was critically lauded and earned De Niro his 7th Academy Award nomination, proving that he could still deliver emotionally resonant work in contemporary, smaller-scale films. It wasn't about the big dramatic gestures. It was about the subtle, heartfelt portrayal of a complex family dynamic. His commitment to collaborating with legendary filmmakers also continued. In 2015, he reunited with Martin Scorsese for The Audition, a high-profile short film that set the stage for their monumental 2019 crime film, The Irishman. In The Irishman, adapted from Charles Brandt's book I Heard You Paint Houses, De Niro played Frank Sheeran, a hitman who claims to have been involved in the disappearance of labor leader Jimmy Hoffa. The film utilized groundbreaking digital de-aging technology to allow De Niro and his co-stars, including Al Pacino and Joe Pesci, to play the characters across several decades. The project was a massive critical triumph, serving as a reflective, somber coda to the many mob films De Niro had made throughout his career. It was a meditation on aging, regret, and loyalty, brought to life by a trio of acting legends. In addition to his acting, De Niro continued to expand his producing and directing footprint. In 2006, he directed and starred in The Good Shepherd, an ambitious historical spy drama detailing the early history of the CIA. The film, which starred Matt Damon and Angelina Jolie, was a passion project that De Niro had developed for years, showcasing his deep interest in American political history and institutional power. It was a sprawling, intricate narrative that demonstrated his vision behind the camera. De Niro's modern career also branched into television, showing his adaptability to different mediums. In 2017, he starred as disgraced financier Bernie Madoff in the HBO television film The Wizard of Lies. De Niro's portrayal of the architect behind the largest Ponzi scheme in history was chilling and deeply psychological, earning him an Emmy Award nomination. He didn't just play a villain, he played a man driven by hubris and deception, exploring the psychological depths of a real-life figure. He also received Emmy recognition for his work behind the scenes, producing projects like the acclaimed miniseries When They See Us. Furthermore, his willingness to engage with contemporary culture was evident when he took on the recurring role of special counsel Robert Mueller on Saturday Night Live, a performance that delighted audiences and highlighted his political activism. Activism and politics have long been a significant aspect of De Niro's public life. He has been an outspoken advocate for various political causes, frequently utilizing his platform at award shows and public events to voice his opinions. He isn't afraid to speak his mind, using his considerable influence for causes he believes in. In 2016, his cultural impact was recognized at the highest level when he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by U.S. President Barack Obama. The honor celebrated not only his contributions to the arts, but also his philanthropic work and his embodiment of the American spirit. It was a well-deserved recognition of a lifetime of achievement. Beyond the film industry, De Niro is a prominent businessman and restaurateur. He co-founded the globally recognized Nobu restaurant and hotel empire with chef Nobu Matsuhisa and Mayor Tepper, growing a single, trendy Tribeca location into a luxury brand operating in dozens of cities worldwide. This isn't just a side hustle, it's a massive, successful enterprise. He also co-founded the Greenwich Hotel in New York City, further embedding himself in the economic and cultural fabric of his beloved hometown. These ventures, coupled with his decades of blockbuster earnings, have helped build a vast business empire, resulting in a net worth estimated to be in the hundreds of millions. He is a true entrepreneur, applying the same drive and meticulousness to business as he does to acting. As he navigated his 80s, De Niro showed absolutely no signs of slowing down. He continued taking on demanding roles, such as starring in the family comedy About My Father, and reuniting once again with Martin Scorsese for the highly acclaimed historical epic Killers of the Flower Moon in 2023, in which he played the manipulative and powerful Oklahoma cattleman William King Hale. This performance earned him further accolades, proving his enduring power as a character actor, even late in his career. In 2025, his monumental career was further celebrated when he was awarded the honorary Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, a testament to his legacy in global cinema. He is a living legend, continually adding to his extraordinary body of work. From a quiet, pale boy running the streets of Greenwich Village, nicknamed Bobby Milk, to a globally recognized titan of cinema and business, Robert De Niro's journey is the quintessential American success story. His contributions to acting, particularly the unparalleled intensity and realism he brought to his roles in the 1970s and 1980s, have permanently altered the landscape of filmmaking. Through his collaborations with directors like Scorsese, his exploration of comedy, his development of Tribeca Productions, and his ongoing work in the industry, De Niro has remained a vital force in American culture. He's not just an actor, he's a cultural institution. To truly understand the enduring legacy of Robert De Niro, one must examine the specific elements of his acting style, often referred to as the De Niro method. While he was trained in the traditions of Lee Strasberg and Stella Adler, De Niro synthesized these teachings into a highly personal, meticulous, and transformative approach to performance that redefined what it meant to be a character actor. It wasn't about being a movie star. It was about disappearing into the role. Let's break down what the De Niro method truly entails. First, there's the unparalleled commitment to immersion and research. We've talked about it. Driving a taxi for Taxi Driver, learning to box for Raging Bull, studying Sicilian dialect for The Godfather Part 2, learning the saxophone for New York, New York. This isn't just surface-level research. It's about living the life of the character, understanding their world from the inside out. He often spent months before filming, not just reading the script, but accumulating experiences that would inform his performance. This level of dedication creates a foundation of authenticity that is almost impossible to replicate. It's like an artist who doesn't just paint a landscape from a photograph, but goes and lives in that landscape, feeling the wind, smelling the earth, understanding its light and shadows firsthand. Then there's the physical transformation. De Niro is famous for this, and it goes beyond just gaining or losing weight, though Raging Bull is the most extreme example. It's about altering his posture, his gait, his voice, his mannerisms. For Cape Fear, he sculpted his body to be menacingly muscular. For The Untouchables, he gained weight to embody Al Capone's imposing figure. These aren't superficial changes. They are integral to how the character moves and exists in the world. It's a complete physical embodiment, a shedding of his own identity to fully become someone else. This physical commitment helps him and us believe in the reality of the character. Another crucial element is the meticulous attention to detail. De Niro is known for his extensive note-taking, his deep analysis of the script, and his collaboration with directors and writers to flesh out every nuance of a character. He doesn't just read lines, he understands the subtext, the unspoken motivations, the history that informs every gesture and word. This granular approach ensures that no detail is overlooked, building a performance from countless small, authentic choices. It's like a master craftsman who doesn't just assemble a piece of furniture, but meticulously carves and sands every joint, every surface, ensuring strength and beauty in every detail. And of course, there's the psychological depth. Drawing on his Strasberg training, De Niro taps into the emotional core of his characters, no matter how dark or conflicted. He's not afraid to explore vulnerability, rage, fear, or profound sadness. He allows himself to be emotionally porous, to absorb and channel the inner life of the character. This is where the true magic happens, where the audience connects with the character's humanity, even when they're playing a monster like Travis Bickle or Max Cady. He finds the human being beneath the persona, allowing us to glimpse their inner turmoil. Finally, there's the element of improvisation and spontaneity. While deeply researched and meticulously planned, De Niro's performances often contain moments of raw, unscripted brilliance, like the "You Talkin' to Me" scene in Taxi Driver. This ability to live in the moment, to react authentically within the character's skin, gives his performances an electrifying unpredictability. It's the culmination of all the preparation, allowing him the freedom to truly be the character, rather than just acting like them. It's like a jazz musician who has mastered their instrument and theory so completely that they can improvise with breathtaking creativity and emotion. In essence, the De Niro method is a holistic approach, a complete surrender to the character. It's about building a character from the ground up, from their physical presence and their external world to their internal psychology and emotional landscape. It's a relentless pursuit of truth and authenticity, no matter the cost or the effort required. This dedication is precisely why his performances resonate so deeply and why he has left such an indelible mark on cinematic history. He doesn't just play roles, he becomes them, pulling us into their world with him. So, as we wrap up today's journey through the incredible life and career of Robert De Niro, let's reflect on the key takeaways. We've seen how his Manhattan roots, steeped in the bohemian art scene and the gritty streets of Greenwich Village and Little Italy, provided him with a unique cultural education that shaped his understanding of diverse characters. His early decision to forego traditional education for intense acting training at Stella Adler and Lee Strasberg laid the groundwork for his groundbreaking method acting technique. His rise in the 1970s, marked by iconic collaborations with Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola, transformed him into a cinematic legend, defining an era of intense, character-driven filmmaking. The 1980s saw him reach the pinnacle of his craft with Raging Bull, showcasing an unparalleled commitment to physical and psychological transformation. As he moved into the 1990s and 2000s, De Niro expanded his horizons, proving his versatility in comedies, directing his own films, and becoming a vital force in revitalizing his beloved New York City through ventures like the Tribeca Film Festival. And in the modern era, he continues to defy expectations, delivering powerful performances, engaging in political activism, and building a vast business empire. His De Niro method, characterized by unparalleled immersion, physical transformation, meticulous detail, psychological depth, and spontaneous improvisation, has set a gold standard for acting. He doesn't just act, he transforms, he embodies, he lives the characters he portrays. Robert De Niro is more than an actor. He is a cultural icon, a testament to what unwavering dedication and artistic integrity can achieve. His legacy isn't just a collection of films. It's a living, breathing testament to the power of storytelling and the enduring pursuit of truth in art. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the world of Robert De Niro. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the man behind some of cinema's most unforgettable characters. Until next time, keep watching, keep learning, and keep appreciating the art that moves us.